Well, hello everyone and welcome to the Australian Country Showcase question and answer session. My name is Kristina Anastasi and I will be moderating the session this morning. Now, just a reminder that questions can be submitted in the top right-hand corner in the chat window. Now, to kick us off, I've already got a couple of questions that I would like to start. So with the first one, I'd like to go to Victoria, and I'd like to ask Cameron a question about the recent copper results from the Staveley ARC. I note these are very impressive. Is it possible that an explorer could discover a similar deposit during early stage exploration in Western Victoria? Cameron?
Thanks, Kristina. Absolutely. It appears that the discovery that's been made is of porphyry affinity, copper porphyry affinity. And as most of us will know, that copper porphyries tend to occur in clusters. And there are other porphyry occurrences through the area. But I think that the key point is that there's about 1,200 kilometres of strike of the Mount Staveley volcanic complex. And most of that's undercover and hasn't been tested. So I think with this somewhat unique style, could be arguably the first time this has potentially been seen in Australia, people will be keen to sharpen their focus on a potential new mineralisation model and have a look at some of these other belts that, as I said, haven't been tested.
Oh, thanks, Cameron. Very interesting. With that, now I'd like to move over to the Northern Territory. And Ian, I'd like to hear, I'm sure people would be interested to know, what are the key factors that have driven the very high level of industry interest in exploring undercover areas east of Tennant Creek?
Yeah, thanks, Kristina. I guess the area east of Tennant Creek, which is known as the Barkly Tableland, is just an area of no outcrop and it's effectively underexplored. What our colleagues at Geoscience Australia did in collaboration with ourselves is really hit it with a really wide range of pre-competitive geoscience at all scales, sort of from the lithospheric scale down to the surface scale. And this volume of new pre-competitive geoscience data is really exciting. It's showing lithospheric scale structures through the area associated with a whole lot of other indicators that suggest it is prospective for iron oxide copper gold mineralisation. We've also seen explorers moving into the area because of some promising hydrogeochemistry data. And I guess what it really shows is the power of multidisciplinary pre-competitive geoscience to open up frontier areas. So we're really excited about this. And now currently we have the Binek CRC drilling underway in the area, which is going to test this unexplored basement. So it's really an exciting one to watch for the next few months.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that, Ian. Look, I might move over to Tasmania now at the moment. I note there's a question that's also come through. Has Tasmania's co-funded Greenfield exploration drilling initiative resulted in any interesting intersections? Andrew, could you answer it, please?
Yeah, thanks, Kristina. We've had some good gold intersections in the northeast resulting from the co-funded drilling. Staveley Resources drilling around the Methina deposit have discovered some new mineralised structures, and although the grades aren't what the market expected, there is good gold mineralisation there. We're also seeing good base metal intersections in Western Tasmania in some of the Neoproterozoic hosted replacement terrains, and also some interesting hits in terms of iron ore in the northern part of the state, in the sort of the iron magnetite tungsten skarn type systems. One thing that's been good is to see that the drilling has largely continued through the COVID period. Those companies based in Tasmania have managed to keep up with their drilling and keep those programs going. And one thing we've done is to assist companies who have grants is to extend the period for completion of current co-funded drilling grants by about 9 months to allow those companies who are based outside Tasmania to get their programs done and receive their grants. I think that's about it. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. So I'm hearing from a lot of people from right across Australia that there is a lot of flexibility, and we've been very adaptive and flexible in allowing the ongoing opportunities for industry to come and explore and build on that wonderful pre-competitive work that everyone has available to them. Thank you for that. I also now might move to New South Wales. John, could you tell us more about the Parks Special Activation Precinct?
Yeah, thanks, Kristina. So this is something new in Australia. It's been developed by United Nations in developing countries, and we're bringing this to Australia now. So the Parks Special Activation Precinct is the first Australian United Nations eco-industrial park. So this is basically just it's a freight and logistics hub. It's at the junction between two national railway lines. And the plan is to create, efficiencies and synergies by co-locating a number of related companies, including manufacturing and processing facilities there. So you're getting all of these, you're creating a complete loop of the freight and logistics. For resources, this is a great opportunity. We've got major copper and gold mines in the area, as well as 15 advanced critical minerals projects that could really take off with this sort of cost effectiveness afforded by the Park SAP. So, yeah.
Oh, very good. Now, thank you, John. I might move now a bit. I'm moving around Australia for people interest. So now I'm just going to sort of touch base with South Australia. And Rohan, I was wondering if you could also give some insight of what are some of the challenges that our miners face in South Australia, and what is the government doing to assist?
Sorry about that. Yeah, so South Australia can be a challenging place to explore primarily because of the extent and thickness of cover. Also the remoteness of many of the state's prospective regions. So these areas often lack infrastructure that's required to support the development of new mining operation. So the government supports the sector in many different ways. We currently have our Accelerated Discovery Initiative, which provides opportunity for co-funding of exploration activities in greenfields and unexplored areas of the state. We're also part of the MINEX CRC, which Andrew and some of the other states have talked about today. So this provides new pre-competitive geoscience information and drilling and analytical tools to support mineral explorers. There are also numerous cross-department projects looking for water resources to aid with regional development in many parts of the state, which we know have high mineral prospectivity. From a regulatory aspect, we're drafting new mining regulations to support our industry. And also there's a range of measures that support the development and deployment of renewable and low carbon projects across the state as well. So some of these could be used as a possible power source for remote mining and infrastructure projects. So a raft of features that the government has in place.
Oh, thank you for that, Rohan. I've got another question that's come in from the audience, and they're very interested in the industrial parks for minerals processing that New South Wales was talking about. Is anyone from the other jurisdictions able to advise whether they're doing industrial parks as well, or something very similar, or is it just New South Wales?
From the Northern Territory, we're currently doing a study on a minerals processing precinct at Middle Arm, just out of Darwin. There's already a large vanadium titanium iron processing plant being planned for this processing precinct. But I think the Northern Territory is not alone there, but I think most states are currently working on mineral processing precincts in various areas, but my colleagues might want to add to that.
Okay. So it's fair to say that jurisdictions all have some different and various options of assisting interested investors and explorers into their areas, whether it be through the parks of some form or industrial parks such as New South Wales, as well as, you know, assistance through other government initiatives through the jurisdictions. Look, I'd like to have a question now for Queensland and for Tony in this regard. And this is probably a bit of a broad question, but given the environmental, social and corporate governance issues that are now sort of a key investment criteria, what would you see sets Australia or individual jurisdictions apart from the rest of the world? Thanks, Tony.
Thanks a lot, Brooke. I think that's a really good question in this modern era that we live in today. I mean, around the world, there are many, many investment houses, many companies, many customers who are crying out for supply chains that can guarantee those ESG credentials. I think that all Australian jurisdictions have that as an advantage. You know, in Australia, we have the rule of law, we have respect for contracts, we have strong regulatory regimes, strong compliance regimes. So I think that, you know, we all collectively have an advantage. Let's look very far around the world to see examples of the opposite. I won't name names, but we can all think of countries where, you know, the laws and the government are not as strong. So I think that's our advantage into the future.
Would any other jurisdiction like to add to that? No? Look, I've got a couple of more questions that have come through. So one of the questions is, what new technologies are the states looking to use in continuing exploration geological work? Is there anything innovative they would like to identify?
I can jump in there, Kristina. So Victoria's got a probably not as well known, but a MET, so Mining Engineering Technology Service sector, that exports its skills and expertise both domestically and internationally. So we just actually, there was a session at IMARC yesterday on some of the exploration applications, such as digital face mapping underground, but there's also a number of core scanning groups and applied machine learning to that, and a number of others around exploration data and the manipulation and interpretation of that data. So yeah, I'd encourage everyone to have a look in and around Melbourne and also the regions about some of these technologies and opportunities on offer.
Oh, thanks, Cameron.
I think, Kristina, most of the states are involved in the MINEX CRC, which is the world's biggest exploration program. So almost $250 million over a 10-year program, and that's definitely looking at cheaper, faster, and safer drilling. So that is something that is very innovative in the exploration space, and we're hoping to see great results from that. From a national viewpoint. From a state viewpoint, within that program in New South Wales, we've been continuing to trial biogeochemistry, in this case cypress pine needles in the state's Midwest. We're having fantastic results with that, and this provides, again, a much cheaper and faster and environmentally friendly way of exploring and targeting drilling. And this is, we are testing this against normal soil geochemistry, and also CSIRO with their team based in Perth is also, and a number of states are involved in a program of looking at ultrafine soils, which is taking just the very finest soil fraction and then analysing that, and that is giving us fantastic results as well in a different way. So Australia has always been a great leader in exploration technologies, and these are some more examples that are really coming through in this space.
Thanks for that, John. Thanks for that, Cameron. Look, I might keep moving on. We've been given a few extra minutes, and the reason being that now we've got some questions coming in fast. There is a question now about which critical minerals can Australia provide for decarbonising the economy? Is there a jurisdiction that would like to take the lead on this one as a beginning? One of the things is that Australia has a range of critical minerals, and it's a matter of how they can be used, and they all fit into supporting renewable energy technology, a lot of them. But I'd, pass on to any jurisdiction if they're interested in taking a lead.
Yeah, perhaps I might. You go, Rohan.
Sorry, Tony. No, you go.
I was going to say that I think Australia has two offerings to the world in terms of the low emissions and cleaner future. One is in hydrogen, and there's a lot of work happening in the hydrogen space, particularly green hydrogen. There's also electrification. Electrification obviously spans across generation, transmission, and storage. I think in the mineral space, we can cover all of the elements required for electrification, whether it's solar, photovoltaic cells or windmills, the minerals that are needed for that, the copper for transmission, and the battery minerals needed to store electricity. I think between all the states and territories, we have everything that's needed for that electrification of our future. Rohan?
You must have read my notes, Tony. I agree completely. I think we're seeing the development of the supporting infrastructure also for the renewable sector of the future. I mean, South Australia also has a developing hydrogen industry. We also have abundant graphite resources as well, and obviously copper. So, I think along with the other states, we're well placed to support the modernisation of our system. So.
Well, thanks.
And maybe just one thing I'll add is that Australia's also in the last year set up a critical minerals facilitation office to sort of coordinate the development of our critical minerals industry, and really focused on supply chains for things like rare earths, but also lithium. WA is the world's biggest supplier of lithium, so yeah, I can only back up what my colleagues have said.
Yep, and come and visit the site, come and visit our booth and our micro communities as well. There's information there that I'm sure we can share about the Critical Minerals Facilitation Office and more details about what tools we might have to support you in coming into looking at critical minerals in Australia. One of the other questions that I've got here, there's a couple of more I'd like to sort of test with. Might move to Andrew Heap from Geoscience Australia. One of the questions here is about when will the new activities under Exploring for the Future begin? Andrew?
Thanks, Kristina. Well, at the moment, we're in the process of defining what those projects might be. We're working very closely with our state and territory partners, the people in the room or the virtual room you're seeing today, and providing, getting their input into what those projects might look like. But effectively, we've got work going on already, as we mentioned earlier, in the National Drilling Initiative in the Northern Territory and the Western Queensland drilling work that we're doing at the moment as part of the MINEC CRC. But we'll kick off a new series of projects, probably starting early in 2021. And we're hoping that we can get on the ground, COVID restrictions notwithstanding, very soon after that.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. Now, a couple more. Can I ask one of the questions I've got here, which is how fast can an Australian mine come online once a discovery is made? Is this something, New South Wales, would you like to take this on board as a starting point?
Yeah, we've actually had a very good record in the minerals space of going from mining lease to mine. But of course, these things still take time, and I would suggest that the historical average is 5 years from that point. But yeah, our processes are improving all the time. In the coal and petroleum space, it's a bit longer, but I think in the mineral spaces, which is what we're focused on here, it's very good, considering we have some of the world's best in Australia conditions that have to be followed. So yeah.
Thanks, John. Would anyone else like to speak on add anything further? No. Look, sorry, John, I'll keep on you. There was just one final question that's also just come through, and it says it's about the cooperative drilling that is going on in New South Wales, and can you give some more detail about it?
Yeah,
about
so
how it's going?
yeah, this is the third year of our program, so we're in our third round. We have, in each of these, we've invested $2 million in grants to companies. We usually provide this to over 20 companies in each of the rounds. And we pay 50% of the drilling costs, the direct drilling costs. So yeah, it's been a very successful and much loved program from the explorers, and we've had some fantastic hits. You've heard of the great hits that have been happening in Tasmania. I think all of the states who have this program have seen good success. And I think the key to this is that we really focus on the frontier areas, whether that's spatially or at depth. They're the ones we focus on because they can give the greatest benefit to extending the sustainability of the industry. In New South Wales, we've had very good success with Impact Minerals, who have found some of the greatest PGE hits ever seen in Australia with their drilling out at Broken Hill. And I would say probably the best next one would be Wirlong. So that's in the state's central west in the Cobar Basin. And that's extended the prospectivity of that belt further south with some great base metal and gold and copper.
Oh, thank you, John. Would anyone else like to talk about some of the cooperative drilling programs? Maybe Tasmania?
I can jump in, Kristina. I think a great consistency across Australia is we all have these programs in one form or another, but there's a lot of similarities. Victoria, we saw a gold discovery in the very first round, which has had a lot more drilling since, which is great. But I think one of those consistencies that benefits not just the explorer who's got the grant, and this will come in many forms across the jurisdictions, but the data, including the drill core itself, typically becomes open file after a confidentiality period, which is often not very long with respect to a license or something like that. So it ultimately means that industry benefit overall in being able to access that and get new insights and possibly even applying new technologies that the explorer who got the grant didn't at the time. So it's just adding to that the growing pre-competitive data mix and data volume.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I might end here. We're on now 1 minute left. I'm afraid that's all we have time for. So thank you all for joining us today to hear more about those opportunities for investment in Australian resource projects. If you'd like to talk to us further about anything you've seen or heard in today's presentations, as I've mentioned earlier, please come and visit us at our IMARC booths or reach out using the contact details included in our presentations. Can I also encourage you all to visit our Australian Minerals micro community if you've still got some more questions, and engage with our Australian Minerals colleagues who have all been here as part of this presentation. And I do hope that you all enjoy the rest of your conference. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kristina.